Hi friends, my name is Megan and welcome to this Flosstube Extra. If you are new here, welcome. This is a channel that is mostly about cross stitch, and today will only be about cross stitch and sampler stitching to be specific. And if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back and spending time with me. I appreciate you all so much, and I really hope that you enjoy what I've got planned for you today. So today is Monday, September the 4th, and for many of my stitching friends, it is the beginning of Sampler September. In the month of September, lots of stitchers like to focus in on their samplers, whether it be samplers they've already started, pulling them out and working on them, or new samplers, or maybe even finishing some samplers, but it's like sampler crazy, and this year I'm just really feeling all into it. So what I decided to do was to pull out samplers that I finished over my stitching journey and share them here today. I've got samplers here that I have fully finished and framed. I've got some that I have finished stitching but not fully finished yet. And I was going to bring out my sampler whips. However, when I pulled them all out, I realized almost all of my current works in progress are samplers. By far the majority of them. And some of them I've already worked on this year and won't work on again until next year, so those you'll see at my end of the year web parade. And I've got some of them that I'm hoping to work on in the month of September. September's going to be really busy for me. I've got something almost every single weekend, which has got my poor little introverted heart like freaking out about already. But hopefully I will have some progress on those, and I'll share them at my my update that I'll do at the end of the month. So today will just be finishes, and I think that we should maybe just get right into it. So the first one that I have to share with you today is the very first sampler that I ever finished. This would have been from 2017, and it was maybe, let's see, I started stitching again in 2014. I found Flosstube sometime in the 2015 to 2016 time frame, and I remember seeing this project on one of the first people that I ever really started watching regularly, and they had finished it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I loved it so much, so I got it and I stitched it too. And that project is The Marquee by Jardin Privé. I stitched this on 28 count Monaco, and I used the called for DMC. It was just 4 colors. And still to this day, this is one of my very favorite projects ever. I think that she's absolutely beautiful. Now, unfortunately, when I pulled her down off of the wall today to share with you, I did notice that there's quite a bit of discoloration happening, kind of at the top and around the sides a little bit on this fabric, and a little bit kind of in here as well. I can tell you that 2017 Megan was not nearly as diligent with washing her hands, and I was probably like eating, and I was a smoker then, and so who knows what's happened to this poor gal. And I could take her all apart and probably wash her, and if I did that, I would probably reframe her a little closer, but I don't think I'm really realistically going to do that. In fact, there was a couple projects when I pulled down that I can really tell a difference between the way I frame now and the way I was framing back then, and they could probably use a little redo, but really I don't think that I'm ever going to take the time to do that. So we'll just enjoy them exactly as they are now, stains and all. So here is the Marquee, and I absolutely love her. Like I said, again, this would be the first sampler that I finished in 2017. That did spark a love for me of Jardin Privé. I think it was the next year, maybe 2018. There was a Jardin Privé Sal, and I stitched Quaker Gentleman, and he's also stitched on 28 count Monaco using just 2 colors, just black and this blue. I had 2 skeins of this variegated blue, and I sent one of them off as a gift to somebody, and then after that I realized I did not have enough to finish this project. So what I ended up doing was finding 2 different DMCs, one that kind of went with the lighter part of the variegation and one with part of the darker variegation, and I blended the threads to finish this. And so I learned a lesson that day. And it was like a one-off dyer. It wasn't like anything that I could just buy. So yeah, but he's another one of my all-time favorites. And because I stitched the Quaker Gentleman, I also had to stitch, is this called My Lady's Quaker? I think it is. Again, 28 count Monaco. And she's done in the black, just 310. And I'm pretty sure this red is DMC 115, which is a beautiful variegated red. And I love these three. I'm obsessed with these three. They all hang together on my wall in the living room. I think that they are some of the prettiest stitching I've ever done. I absolutely love them. So those three, and I have stitched and finished one other Jardin Privé Quaker, and this is Halloween Quaker. I stitched this, I think I started this in 2017 as well, or early 2018, and I stitched it on a piece of 32 count shale, I believe, by Picture This Plus. And I stitched it with one thread over, and it is so tone on tone, we'll call it, that it is pretty hard to see even in real life. I remember that this thread was that same dyer from that I had the blue thread from, and I couldn't get any more of it, and I had it in my head that this was what I was doing, and so I stitched it with one thread over on 32 count. And so she's, like I said, she's pretty tone on tone, but it's okay. She hangs up either way. That's fine. Oh, I forgot to say, starting with the marquee was well, it was my first sampler, but it was also the first time that I had switched out some colors of letters. So on a lot of the samplers that I've done, the A, the M, and the Q have been in different colors when I remember to do so for Megan, Aaron, and Quentin, obviously. Anyways, this is Halloween Quaker by Jardin Privé. Another Halloween sampler that I did came from just cross stitch, Halloween edition. I'm pretty sure this was called Potions, Brews, and Spells. I stitched this in 2017. This would have been, I believe, also on 28 count Monaco, and I dyed this fabric myself. I do not recall which floss I was using at that time. But this was not the entire piece. At the bottom there was like a graveyard gate, I believe, and I chose not to do that. And this project, being a band sampler, each of the different bands are a different specialty stitch, which, like, looking back, like 2017 Megan, I didn't know anything, so I didn't know to like be like wary of specialty stitches. And for some reason now Megan is like, oh, I don't know if I can do this herringbone border or whatever, which is silly. I just started a sampler the other day, and one of the reasons that I had put off starting it was there's a closed herringbone border that goes all around its border, and I was like, oh, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to like execute that properly. And it's fine. You follow the diagram, you put your needle where it says to go, and that's it. And so I need to maybe channel more of 2017 Megan's energy and just like, whatever, who cares? My friend Anna is always like, fear no stitch, you know? Love that. All right, this next sampler is also in the maybe Halloween kind of spooky vein. This is Witch's Garden Sampler by Not Forgotten Farm. And this pattern notoriously has got the worst cover picture on it. I don't remember what year I stitched this in, but I did stitch it on some 18 count Aida that I had coffee and tea dyed. And I feel like I had changed some of the colors, but maybe I didn't. I remember like feeling some kind of way about the green, and I ended up maybe using what was charted. I can't remember, it's been a long time. But this sampler says henbane, mandrake, catnip, rue, mugwort, nettle, feverfew, grow ye well in thy garden, sit a spell in my garden, till and toil and tend thy soil. And as this body too must die, and my mortal frame decay, so must these nimble hands of mine lie mouldering in the clay. And and she lives on my garden wall. I know you're shocked, I have another theme wall. But yeah, this is one of my favorites. Not Forgotten Farm is one of my all-time favorite designers, and I love this so much. Alright, another Halloween piece that I have here is a Jenny Beans Halloween, a classic. I know a lot of people have stitched this over the years. This was stitched on some 32 count extrude design linen. I remember many moons ago she had posted some like off dye linen that she had for sale on her Instagram, and I bought 2 pieces, and I stitched this piece and Jenny Beans Christmas, which I have to show you next, on those 2 pieces of linen. I am also working on Jenny Beans Spring, which I'm stitching on extrude design linen as well. So this is Jenny Beans Halloween. Again, on this one I had switched the A and the M and the Q to brighter colors for our initials. This I stitched in, I believe, all color and cotton, or close to all color and cotton floss, and I was working on the border, all the leaves on the border, and I realized I was not going to have enough, and it was one of her like floss of the month colors, and so I ended up reaching out to her, and she found like 2 skeins of it, and I was able to purchase it from her, and she saved the day. I've loved color and cotton for a long time, and that kind of service is like, wow, amazing. I remember I was so worried. Yeah, but I love this one. And this one says, when I'm dead and in my grave and all my bones are rotten, if this you see, pray think of me, or I will be forgotten. There's Jenny Beans Halloween. And like I said, the next one up is Jenny Beans, I think this is Jenny Beans Christmas. And again, extrude design 32 count fabric. I know these are all colors that I chose myself. Again, I would say this is probably mostly color and cotton. And it says, and had I but 1 penny, thou shouldst have it to buy gingerbread. Beautiful. I love this. I'm not even a big Christmas person, but this is just so gorgeous to me. I love the holly border. Did I do our letters A, M, and Q? I did. A, M, and Q on this one were also done in a different color. In fact, I think on my Jenny Bean Spring, I haven't put the A, the M, and the Q in yet because I wasn't sure what color they will be. So these hang together. I don't know if I just said that, and I've got a space up there on the wall for Jenny Bean Spring, and I needed to find something for the summer, and I think I've got Jenny Bean something garden. I'll have to look. I think I've got something I can use for the for kind of a summer inspired piece. Right. And take a quick quarter break there. All right, my next sampler that I finished, I think is by Threadwork Primitives. I don't remember what it is called. It has been living in a frame like this, shamefully, for years, and will probably always live like this, because if I haven't fixed it by now, I feel like the chances of me fixing it are slim to none. But this sampler says, bind my wandering heart to thee. Which I remember I stitched in February as like a Valentine's piece. Because it made me think of Aaron and I, because when Aaron and I started seeing each other, I had no intention of dating anybody. And somehow now it's been 10 years. So anyways, this is stitched on, I think it's either a 28 or a 32 count Lugana that I had coffee and tea dyed. It was originally pink, and I had coffee tea dyed it to make it this like pinky brown color, and I stitched this all over one, and it was just using 3 colors, a pink, a brown, and a green. And that hangs up in my craft room, and I love it. Another piece that hangs up in my craft room is a big one. This I stitched in 2018. I remember it was part of a stitch along, and I was so excited to stitch it that I worked on it, I think, pretty much straight through. And that is Sampler Sisters. Is it Sampler Sisters of the Thread? Sampler Sisters of the Heart? Sampler Sisters of the Thread, I think, by the Primitive Needle. This was stitched on some 32 count color and cotton. I want to say that this was a piece that was from her first Halloween box that she did, but I can't say 100%, but I feel pretty confident that that's right. And I chose all my own colors for it, in close approximation to the colors that were called for. It says, "Sampler sisters of the thread, ancient spirits, hear us now, peace and love do we avow." And this work is mine. And I love this. This is one of my all-time favorite pieces that I ever stitched. I put some family members and stitching friends' initials along the bottom. And yeah, I love this, and I see it every single day up in my craft room. This is another one that could use a reframe. I remember this was one of the first pieces I ever laced, I think. And I pinned it and I laced it, but then I took the pins out, and so now it's like the lacing is not as tight as it was. So, but will I fix it? Who cares but me? So, probably not. Yep, so that was 2018. Oh, my chair is getting full. I think, let's see, next I will do one from 2019, and this is a pretty big one, so I'm gonna have to scoot my chair out. It might make a loud sound in case you're wearing headphones. The backup for this one. So this is A Mind Independent and Free by Carriage Samplings, and I'm 5'2" for reference. Here she is. I know quite a few people I think have been stitching on this lately. There you can see the, there you go. This was stitched on 28 count Perman linen in the colorway Smoke, which is why it's so big. I feel like many people, when they stitch this, they stitch it on maybe 40 count, so it's not like wall size, but I've got a wall in my living room where this fits just perfectly. And yeah, like I said, I finished this in 2019, and this reads, "No glory I covet, no riches I want, ambition and beauty are nothing to me. The only thing I beg of good heaven to grant is a mind independent and free." So that's by far my biggest sampler that I have stitched. All right, I'm gonna move the chair again. Okay, need a drink. It is hot here today. All right, the next one I have to share was something I was stitching along with my friend Michelle, and this is by Heartstring Samplery. It's called Forever Young. This was stitched on a piece of 40 count patina, and I've used this, like the scraps of this linen to its very end. I think I've got one little tiny piece left. This was stitched with all of the called for overdyes, and this is another one of my all-time favorite pieces. I dedicated this to my son Quentin. He had a book, Forever Young, when he was little, and we used to read it all the time. It was the words to the song, but in an illustrated book, and this will always make me think of him. So of course I had to stitch it for him. So love that one. My chair is full. I'm gonna have to stack on the floor, I think. All right, this next sampler was this got me through the beginning of the pandemic. This is We Live in Hope by Blackbird Designs. So I remember when this came out at a retreat. It was it a Dying to Stitch retreat, maybe? And I was beside myself because you guys know I've got my Chesapeake Bay wall here, and it literally says Chesapeake Bay on the pattern. And so I remember we were leading up to Nashville Market, and Blackbird doesn't do like previews, I don't think. And I was just like waiting and waiting, and I want to say that that market was like the weekend before kind of everything shut down. And they released it, and I went right online. Who was it? Maybe was it Jen's Stitching Niche had it up first? I can't remember. I bought it from the first place that I could find it, and I started it maybe a week or two into the pandemic, or maybe right away. I honestly can't remember. I remember stitching, like closing my laptop and going directly to the couch and working on this. This was stitched on 40 count something, and I chose all my own colors. And to this day, I think this is probably the most beautiful thing I've ever done. I love this so much, so much. So there's that one. After I finished that, I worked on that straight through from start to finish. I stitched this project next. This was another primitive needle project. It was called Live Simply, and I stitched it in all of the called for colors. It was Daldani's, and I stitched this also on a 40 count. I can't remember what color. Live Simply, that others may simply live, which felt important in the beginning of 2020 and still feels just as important now. This lives with my other big Quakers on that same wall. Love that little sampler. So let's see. The next one I have to show you is by Ellen Chester with Thy Needle. And this is one of the 2 mini Quakers that she has. It's like it's one chart. I want to say it's maybe just mini Quaker samplings, I think. But this was stitched on 40 count extra design morning coffee, I believe, with 1 strand of a Vicky Clayton silk. I don't remember, 101 or something. It was right when she started dyeing silk again, and she only had a few colors listed on the website, and this was one of them. I love this. I've got the second sampler here to show you as well. I love this. This is on my little blue sampler wall. Also on my little blue sampler wall is this pattern, which is Thankful Wheeler by the Good Housewife. This is one of those patterns where the picture does not do any justice to the colors. Like, you can't tell in that picture that that house is blue, or that really there's any blue. It's a super dark picture. I remember I started this at the New Jersey retreat. I don't remember if it was was it in 2018 maybe? I can't, 2019? 2018? And yeah, I used all the call for DMC, and I stitched it on some 18 count Ada that I dyed myself, and I love it. That one was really dusty. That one was really dusty. The other sampler I have right now on my blue sampler wall is by Pineberry Lane, and this is called Verses on the Death of Lucy Nolan. This was stitched on a piece of 32 count vintage Sahara that I feel like it was pretty yellow. I think it's a Swigart fabric, and I coffee and tea dyed it because I guess that's my jam, or was my jam. This is another one of my very favorites that I have ever finished. This had a lot of over 1 stitching on it, and I remember up here somewhere in the top there are cross stitches that are like 2 wide and 3 high, and it was just like my brain was like, we can't do this. And that was a little tough, but that's okay. I absolutely love this. It reads, "How changed that lovely flower which bloomed and cheered my heart, far fleeting comfort of an hour, now soon we're called to part. And shall my bleeding heart arraign that God whose ways are love, or vainly cherish anxious pain for her who rests above? From adverse blasts and lowering storms her favored soul he bore, and with yon bright angelic forms she lives to die no more. Why should I vex my heart or fast? No more she'll visit me. My soul shall mourn to her shall mount to her at last, and I her face shall see." This is Reproduction. This is sad. and beautiful. I love morning samplers. This was stitched in 1848, the original. And this floss was an extra design, My Little Bluebird maybe, and I was looking at it and it really, it used to be a lot more blue. It's actually kind of fading a little bit to gray now. But this has been done for several years and that's okay. That's alright. She's still beautiful. I've got two more that are framed to share. This is a Scarlet House piece, Jane Hopkins, 1801. And this this pattern, I chose all my own colors, and I believe it's probably all color and cotton as well. This one says, keep death and judgment always in your eye. None is fit to live, but who is fit to die? Make use of present time, because you must take up your lodging shortly in the dust. I think this was the first reproduction sampler I ever finished. Jane Hopkins in the 13th year of her age, 1801. There's like little tiny eyelet borders. They took me a long time. And I'm pretty sure this is a 32 count. Just like a natural linen that I stitched it on. I love this one too. I love them all, obviously. I love them all. Alright, and the last one is actually a red sampler, which I know is not something I typically stitch. This is another Pineberry Lane. This is Marie Journet, 1863. And this was stitched on, I believe, 32 count old linen, extra design, using sulky. This might have been the first project I ever used sulky on. I can't remember. But it's just three colors. It's mostly red, a little bit of green, and a little touch of gold. And I can't read that one to you. So, those are all of the samplers that I have framed and hanging around my home. And so next I'm going to show you some that I finished that are not framed. This one I believe I stitched last year, maybe in September. This is a Scarlet letter piece and it's called Sally Morse. This was a kit that I had. It was 4 colors of silk. And it came with this natural linen. I don't know why a needle is still in there. But this was super fast, except for all those little satin stitches down at the bottom. But she's cute. I like her a lot. This next one, I feel like took me a really long time. Took me several years to finish. This is Anne Barson Lowbrow, 1837. This is a Plum Street Samplers Antiques pattern, and it came in 2 different colorways. There was the colorway, like an original colorway I think that Paulette did, and then there was the Reproduction colorway, and that's the colorway I chose. This is stitched on 40 count vintage light exemplar, and here she is. She's absolutely beautiful. It says, hark from the tomb a doleful sound, my ear attend the cry, ye living men come view the ground where you must shortly lie. Princes, this clay must be your bed, in spite of all your towers. The tall, the wise, the reverend head must lay as low as ours. Right. I love her. I'd like to get her framed soon. I think I have a frame picked out for her. This next one will eventually be on my blue sampler wall. This I stitched with Maddie. And this project is Hannah Carter, 1838, by Shakespeare's Peddler. And I stitched it on a piece of 32 count Lugana that I coffee and tea dyed. And I stitched it 1/2 using 2 colors of DMC. And I believe I used a little bit of silk down here at the bottom for the gold. And this one reads, have communion with few, be familiar with one, deal justly with all, and speak evil of none. I love this. I do not think I have a frame ready for this one, which is a bigger one. Well, speaking of red samplers, this one, if you watched my last video, you would have just seen that I finished. This is AM 1918, excuse me, by Mrs. Flossie. And I just finished this one. This is stitched on 40 count oak by Northumberland Sampler House, using Belsois tulip and a Goblin silk as well. And I love it. I want more of this fabric. I need to keep an eye on her shop for that. This reminds me of Emily Ann Forrester by Hands Across the Sea. I'll put a picture in here. I finished that for my sister, who is also an Emily Ann, and I put it in a gold frame, and I love that. And I think I'm going to get something similar for this one, a pretty gold frame for this one too. This next little sampler is actually a part of a sampler. This is, I brought the magazine so I would remember what it was. This came out of Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher. This is S.A. Steamer Trunk by Kitten Stitcher. This was part of another sampler. And you finish it in a little trunk. I have that. It says S.A. Emerton, age 10, 1834. Beautiful. I love that. Okay. Now this next one, I didn't even think about this until I pulled it out, because it's been done since 2020. But I'm really loving seeing everybody kind of like gothing up these samplers. I've got the Vanity sampler and I'm like holding off trying to start it because I think it's going to be so beautiful in the colorway that Cam the Stitcher came up with. And there's Thursday has gone goth and everything else. And so this, I guess, is kind of in that same vein. This is Agnes Eland Hick sampler, and look like this. Very soft and pastel, like a pastel pink and a dark green. And I think there was one lighter pink in there as well. And I chose this sampler because it's dated with my birthday, which is November the 9th. It says Agnes Eland Hick, November the 9th, 1858. And the verse reads, no room for mirth or trifling here, for worldly hope or worldly fear, if life so soon is gone, if now the judge is at the door, and all mankind must stand before the inexorable throne. Very uplifting. It's okay, I'm not Christian, it doesn't matter to me. Anyways, I wanted to stitch this for my birthday, and I want to say, I don't remember if I started it, it must have been 2019, I think, that I started it. Maybe. Anyways, it was a birthday start. It has my birthday on it, and I knew this was not the colorway that I wanted, so this is the colorway that I went with. This is stitched on a piece of 32 count Old Farmhouse by Not Forgotten Farm, and as you can see, I definitely changed the colors. I went with grays and dark purples and blacks. So I guess that's my sampler going off. And I did put her name here at the bottom, but I put my initials in the cartouche there. So that is my birthday sampler. I've never seen another one with that date on it. She'll get a frame one day. This next one is the other mini Quaker sampler from with my needle, Ellen Chester. Oh, there's a cat. I don't want her to knock everything down. Everything is so precarious right now. Anyways, here's the other sampler. It goes with that. Again, stitched the same on the 40 count Morning Coffee, I think, by Extra Design with the HDF silk. Beautiful. So now we're getting into more maybe non-traditional samplers. This one is Hoodoo Voodoo by the Primitive Needle. This I stitched on, it's either 32 or 36 count properly primitive, using floss of my choosing, similar to what was called for. Another primitive needle piece that I have completed is a big old morning sampler, Black and Sky. This was a huge, huge pattern, huge undertaking. This is a morning sampler that I personalized for my parents. Beautiful. This one reads, "Our pleasures are born but to die. They are tied to our hearts but to sever, and like stars streaking across a blackened sky, burn their brightest when fading forever." So, that's high on my list to get framed as well. Now these last couple I have stacked up here are ones, so how should I say this? Like, what makes a sampler to you? So these are, I've got one Kathy Barrick and 3 blackbirds here, and would you consider these samplers or not? Like, what makes a sampler? Is it the alphabet? Is it a date? Is it, like, what? So this one, I've got part of the information blocked out because I don't need it on the internet. But this is a Blackbird Design sampler. This comes from the Winter book. And it's like a sampler on the back. And at the bottom it has my mother's name, but her maiden name and date of birth, which is why I have it covered, because that doesn't need to be on the internet. So would you consider this a sampler? I feel like yes, this is a sampler. It's got an alphabet, it's got a motif, well, more than one, but you know what I mean, and it's got a name and a date on it. So that's definitely a sampler to me. And this next one, I also feel is definitely a sampler. This is Scrub Pine sampler, I think. I had it in a Barrick sampler form. I don't know if Kathy Barrick has re-released it. I forgot to say, I don't remember what this is stitched on. This was stitched on a piece of 32 count sampler gold by Color and Cotton. And I used all my own colors, and I was stitching this in hand. I was learning to stitch in hand using the sewing method with this, and I was so frustrated that when it came time to fill in the house, I just couldn't do it. I just didn't have it in me. I was frustrated with how my stitches were looking, and I just like did stitches here and there to make it look like stucco. It's fine. But this one I would say is definitely a sampler. It's got an alphabet and a date and a big house on it. Right? Would you say that's a sampler? I think so. This next one is one excuse me, ma'am. Mittens. She's Queen of the Castle now. So this next one, I was like, I don't know, is this a sampler? This is Autumn Silhouette by Blackbird Design. This was stitched with the called for supplies, which I don't remember because I don't have the pattern here with me. This I stitched right after I got married. And I have, what I would say are my married initials, but I have not yet changed my name, so I don't really know what I'm doing about that. But would you consider this a sampler? I don't know, this one I was like on the fence about. And this one too, this is the last one I have to share with you, and this is it Moon Garden, also by Blackbird? Would you consider this a sampler? This was stitched on 32 count charcoal gray Lugana with called for colors. It's got a pretty alphabet. What do you think? Sampler or no? Because I've got more like this, and I just couldn't decide if they were samplers or not. I've got like, more on the walls and more in my stacks over there. So I'd like to hear your opinion on what makes a sampler. Anyways, those are all my samplers that I've stitched. I really hope that you enjoyed seeing them as much as I enjoyed stitching them. You know, I'm loving seeing what everybody else is working on this month. It's been super great. So, all right, that's it. I hope everybody has been well, and I will see you hopefully at the end of September. Love you all. Bye. Hi friends, future Megan here. I realized while I was cleaning up that I missed a sampler, and that is 1905 Bird by Michelle Bendy Stitchy. This shares a fabric with a sampler whip, so it got mixed up with the whips instead of the finishes. This I stitched with the Sulky pack that it was charted in, and I did make a couple of customizations. I changed the date and the initials. So just wanted to make sure I added that one in. Bye!